So great, I don't have a mark on my face, and I upset Sonny Liston, and I just turned 22 years old. I must be the greatest. I told the world, I talk to God every day. If God's with me, ain't no matter, he'll get me back. I shook up the world. I shook up the world. I shook up the world. I shook up the world.
I said, can I be a legend? Search your soul and answer me this question. Do you think I have what it takes to be great, but still be humble and learn from my mistakes? Shit.
Good night and welcome to yet another edition of This Just In. So much sport in action going on. I mean, the NBA is underway, the Australian Open. If you're a cricket fan, there's international and regional cricket. But tonight, of course, we're going to be focusing on what they like to say is the greatest show on earth. So let's now get into the business end of things. Guys, the first question. Justin, I'm going to start with you because clearly you're ready to go.
Always ready to go.
The biggest storyline from Sunday night Super Bowl in your estimation?
I mean, you can't get past it. As a sports journalist, it's going to be Tom Brady winning his seventh and securing his status as the greatest quarterback. I mean, you could as well basically say greatest footballer of all time. We're going to get into the situation where probably he shouldn't have been the greatest storyline in probably next segment. But the reality is you just can't get past it. When a guy appears in his 10th Super Bowl, and I don't think anyone has appeared in as... Yeah, I think the next closest is half as much. John Elway is the closest with 5. Guy appears in 10 Super Bowls. He's won 7 of them. Then, everyone's saying he's over the hill, he's 43, he's washed up. And then he shows you, no. It is just that I'm in a bad situation here in New England. I just need to retool. So what does he do? He goes to what we can only call a Mormon franchise. He goes into Tampa Bay, who has not won in 18 years, takes that team that did not even make the playoffs, I want to say the last 11 or so years, and takes them not just to the Super Bowl, but takes them to defeat arguably the greatest offense we've ever seen. 31-9 trashing, which should have really been 38-9 trashing. Like, you just can't get past it. The storylines will be Tom, whether Tom was the greatest player on the football field last night. It doesn't matter. Reality is the story. You just can't get past Marsha. This guy went to 10 Super Bowls, won his 7th, took a franchise, and showed that reality is when we were talking about Belichick and Brady all along, it really was Brady.
And Neil, what about you?
Well, so for me, right? So I think that the biggest storyline for me was the Kansas City Chiefs meltdown. I felt as though, everybody knows how prolific that offense is. Everybody knows how prolific. Well, not prolific, but they have a pretty decent defense. But really and truly, their offensive line really protects Patrick Mahomes. Right, and gives him the opportunity to do what he has to do with weapons like Tyreek Hill and Kelce. They have a very great running game. But to me, because they've had some issues with their O-line, obviously we know some players were missing. And then on top of that, too, we had the stifling defense of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now, we know that they were a better defense, a better rated defense than Kansas City. They were ranked 6th last season. But the thing about it is they came out and they pressured Patrick Mahomes and put pressure on that offensive line as best as they could. But what really got me was the mental or lack of mental fortitude within the Kansas City Chiefs, because they started to pick up a lot of that frustration boiled over into a lot of penalty calls, and the penalty calls led to more frustrations on their offense, and then it kind of permeates into their defense. They got some flags on defense as well. Like, I remember there was a offside call on the defense, like
on a field goal of all things, and then
on a field goal. So it's like,
and then
so it's like
you are go ahead, sorry, Neil.
Right. No. You're right, Justin. I mean, it just seems as though Kansas City, even as prolific as they were touted to be, Patrick Mahomes, it was touted to be the student versus the master. We know Mahomes is a great player. We know that that team is all worldly, and we were saying, people were saying that they have a legitimate chance to beat Tampa Bay, but for some reason they just lost their mental fortitude. I don't know if you call it to age, lack of experience. I mean, yes, they got to the mountaintop pretty, I don't want to say easily, but early in some of these players' careers. So I don't know if the experience of Tampa Bay and to keep their poise in certain situations was the detriment to Kansas City. Because, I mean, there were some passing calls, some passing interference calls, some flags. It was just ridiculous to me how they kind of mentally broke down in a championship game, especially knowing the poise that they normally play with. It was uncharacteristic of them to not play with that same poise that Kansas City has. So to me, the biggest takeaway here is not necessarily, I mean, Tom Brady is great. We can get to that later, but I think that the fact that Kansas City just melted under the pressure, it was something different to me.
And then you talk about experience versus youth. But here's the funny thing, Neil. When you take out Rob Gronkowski, they are, being in Tampa Bay, actually the least experienced of the two teams, because most of their players, with the exception also of Jason Pierre-Paul, the rest of those players have never been to a Super Bowl. And here is Kansas City is fresh off of defending theirs. Like, their entire roster, save a couple pieces, just came from winning the Super Bowl. So you figure the experience is actually with Kansas City. It's just that we're looking, obviously, at the two quarterbacks in terms of age.
So, guys, then that leads me right into my next question. Where did the linchpin for this victory really lie? Was it Tom Brady? Was it the Chiefs' offensive line, falling apart? Was it, in fact, Tampa Bay's defensive line, doing the job? Where did the real key for this victory lie?
You've heard me say this, Marshall. You've been on this show with me for a year now. I always say quarterbacks in this league get way too much credit. They also get too much blame as well. But the sexy thing is always to look at quarterbacks and position players. But you've heard me say this countless times, Marcia. Football games are won in the trenches. And the moment that Kansas City was going in this game without starting left tackle Eric Fisher, their starting right tackle, and there was COVID concerns with their center, this game was a wrap. I didn't expect it to be such a wrap because, as I said, they should have lost 38-9 and not 31-9. But you saw, like I said, in the pregame show and also last week's live, and I'm going to name them all like up front. You're going to have to double team Vita Vea. And Dominic and Sue came through with a sack and a half, if memory serves me right. Shaquille Barrett had the other sack. On the opposite side, I mentioned Jason Pierre-Paul, the inside linebacker, I think, who was so underrated, Levante David. And to me, who was my MVP in this game, Devin White. And again, I hope Neil wrote this down. I said in the pre-game show, hours before, my pre-game MVP would have been Devin White. And I think he should have been in consideration for the MVP again. Had 12 tackles in that game, 2 for a loss, and an interception. Devin White completely destroyed and dismantled that entire Kansas City offense. Granted, if 1A for me is that defensive front seven, 1B was Kansas City's offensive line. And I don't blame them because they were just ready undermanned. You're playing backups against arguably the best front seven in all of football. We saw it against my Green Bay Packers, Marsha. My Green Bay Packers have probably one of the best offensive lines in the NFL. Missing star left tackle David Bakhtiari. And you saw they got to Aaron Rodgers about 5 times. Thing was sacked 3 times. And to show you how I know it is the defensive front seven that dominated this game, Neil knows I love my numbers, but here's a number that's going to blow Neil's cool that he didn't know about. Patrick Mahomes, on scrambling before he threw, every single pass combined, his combined scrambling yards were 498 in that one game. 498 combined scrambling yards. This is nothing to do with also running for first downs. Scrambling yards, 498 yards, which is almost twice as much as Kansas City had in the entire game in terms of offense. The boy was running for his life. That front seven completely dominated the game. And Marshall, in my estimation, I understand Brady's numbers look great, but to show you how much it wasn't Brady, if you take away Tom Brady's 3 touchdowns, and I know that's unfair, if you take away those 21 points, Tampa Bay is still up 10-9. That is to show you how much that defensive front seven dominated this game.
Now, Neil, a lot of people were surprised, that the Chiefs didn't even get a single touchdown in this game. And you touched on it in the answer to the previous question. You really had a serious problem with how the Chiefs looked on offense. But to you, where was this game won?
I mean, Justin said it well. I mean, no one can deny that the defense. Well, he singled out a player on defense, but for me, I would give it to the entire defense. I mean,
for me,
it was. Yeah, I mean, it was amazing. It was amazing the amount of pressure they put on Kansas City and how they caused Mahomes to scramble around. I mean, Justin just gave you the numbers. I mean, we watched that game and we saw it was clinical how their defense went after Patrick Mahomes, and it was almost as if there was nothing they could do. It's almost like we know that we have to protect Patrick Mahomes. There's nothing it could do, and it was a trickle effect because it caused a lot of mental mistakes by Kansas City, and it just caused them to kind of to wilt under the pressure. And it was, I mean, Justin could call. You could call White. You could call so many players on that defense that just played exceptionally well. The thing about it is, right, because my concern going into the fourth quarter, especially going in late into the fourth quarter, be like, okay, we up big. We could start to celebrate a little early. They may get a touchdown here or there.
Nope.
But no, they kept the pressure consistent right throughout. It was as if they wanted to make a point that you were not scoring a touchdown today. As great as you think your offense is, Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs, it really is not good enough because our defense is better. And I really do think that it was one, not on Tom Brady's arm. I mean, Tom Brady played well. Gronkowski played well. I mean, offensively, Tampa Bay played well, but it was almost as if the defense, I think even if Tom Brady played a terrible game and it came down to Tom Brady having to score one touchdown or here or there, right? I think once they got two scores or even two scores and two field goals, they still would have won the game on the Tampa Bay defense.
That's what I was saying. Remember in the pregame show, I kept saying if there's a quarterback who was under pressure in this game, going in, it was Patrick Mahomes. He had to be almost perfect to win this game. And I know a lot of Tom Brady supporters are going to say that and being harsh by saying, "Oh, like he was carried." Make no mistake, Tom Brady was not carried. He was 21 of I want to say 26. Sorry, 21 to 29, 201 yards, 3 touchdowns, pass rating over 120. Like this was a phenomenal game for Tom Brady. But as I said, like reality is, even if he had, as Neil correctly said, a subpar game, you held Patrick Mahomes to 0 touchdowns for the first time in over a year. I think the last time he did not throw a touchdown pass was in September of 2019. So you can think about how many games have passed since that time. At a pass rating of 52, 2 interceptions, sacked 3 times. Yeah, like Neil said, it was not even close.
But Justin, though, before we go on, sorry, Marcia, before we go on, Justin, though, I don't even know if it's fair to say that Patrick Mahomes, because I know you said that Patrick Mahomes had to play well. I mean, I think we may get into this, but it's just unfortunate because it really wasn't his fault, if you understand what I mean. Anyhow, go on, Marcia. I just had to say that, but I think we have to talk about that too. Go ahead, Marcia.
Well, guys, if you're watching, be sure to, subscribe to the channel if you're not already subscribed, as well as like this video. And let us know in the comments what you think. Do you agree with Justin and Neil? What really was the biggest storyline coming out of Sunday's Super Bowl? As well as, where did you think this game was won? Was it really, the Tom Brady effect, or did Tampa Bay secure this trophy for the franchise there in Florida? And speaking of Tom Brady, I guess we've already established that you guys agree that he's not the MVP, even though he was the MVP. But let's switch the conversation or take it up a notch because, of course, the timelines were filled with goats on Sunday night after that victory. Is Tom Brady now the unofficial, undisputed, whatever adjective you want to put in there, greatest of all time?
Tom Brady is the greatest quarterback of all time. And I saw a stat last night that kind of made my head explode. In that they were saying that Tom Brady has more Super Bowl wins than any franchise in Super Bowl history. Let me repeat that again. Tom Brady has more Super Bowl wins. The man has more Super Bowl.
The man.
Yes, more Super Bowl wins than the entire NFL teams individually. That I don't know what to put it, but I mean, I would say though that he really is the greatest of all time. I think that at the end of the day, still, I heard on the pregame show yesterday, someone saying that he is the greatest athlete of all time.
You're not
I ain't
going
going that far. I'm not going that far. But in terms of the game of football, yeah, in terms of the game of football, man, Tom Brady is the greatest. I mean, when you look at all that he has done, I mean, let's not even go into history. Let's not even go into what he did in New England. Let's not go into he wins pretty much he wins every other year. When you take his entire career and the amount of Super Bowls that he's been to and that he's won, he technically wins every 2, 3, 4 years. Let's put it into context that he changed Tampa Bay's entire fortunes and culture in one season.
One season.
Now, we can argue, the defense was great. They had the offense. But you know what? You need a leader of men to lead. And granted, Tom Brady, he's in his 43. He's in his decline or whatever. But players followed him. I watched something talking about the players and Tom Brady at this age, at this advanced age as a quarterback and how he led the men. And they said, you know what? He's just so personable. He's like, you would think Tom Brady is coming into the locker room that this is the greatest of all time. He has his shoulders back, shoulder blades back, chest in the air. He's like, don't talk to me, youngin' or whatever. He is pretty much one of the guys. He's in the mud with them. He lets them know, I am here with you. I'm not. It's not I am here with you. You are here with me. We are here together. The coaches are here with us. Everybody is here together, and we are going to win this. He was messaging group, and we are going to win this game in terms of Super Bowl. We're going to win this game on Sunday. We're going to win this game on Sunday. Not, you better don't mess it up for me. You better don't ruin my legacy. Or come on, AB, I need you to play well. Or come on, defense, you better protect our leads. He was one of the players. And that is amazing to me that at 43, you still have the wherewithal. Forget your GOAT status and how you can play the game of football, but the mere fact that you can get the men to rally behind you and play for you. You saw the celebrations and they were interviewing Tom Brady. What a lot of the players were doing, pointing at him, saluting him, thanking him for being that leader. Not the greatest quarterback, but a great teammate and leader, captain of the team. Greatest footballer to me of all time.
Johnson?
What he said. I mean, the reality is, let's step away from the numbers. Neil is correct. It's absolutely correct. You come here and just your aura, you say it all the time, Marsha. When it is seeing is believing. So it is one thing for me to come and say, we're going to win. But if I've never won before, I don't have that belief in you. The mere fact that this guy had previously 6 Super Bowls in 9 appearances, yeah, I'm going to follow that guy. And you could see the impact he had on that locker room. There's a great story coming out of the NFC title game where, one of the players is crying because they're on the way to Super Bowl. And Tom, in the middle of the locker room, in the middle of the celebration, looks at him and screams, "What are you crying for? The job is not done yet." That is how how much of a leader that this man is. But, Neil touched on all that already. So let's get to also the opposite side.
Okay, we're going to touch on the opposite side. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, sorry. The side in terms of numbers.
Okay.
No, Neil touched on the intangibles. But then this is the guy who with the most passing yards, the most passing touchdowns, the most Super Bowl victories. Like, not only are the intangibles telling you that this man is the greatest, the numbers as well. Like, there is nothing to tell you this man is not the greatest. Like in other sports, there are debates, particularly basketball. But everything points to this man passing yards, passing touchdowns, Super Bowl victories. He has, and then it is not like a situation where he's doing this thing and not proving to you during the regular season he is one of the greats. He has three regular season MVPs as well. Everything stacks up. You want numbers, they're there. You want accolades, they're there. You want winning, greatest winner in football. There is, and it pains me to say this because I'm not the greatest winning. Saw Tom Brady.
Now, guys, then let's look ahead, kinda, to next season. They always say it is easy to win a title. The hard part is to defend it or to do the back to back. So with a 40 plus Tom Brady, looking to defend a title, you're not going to be playing at home, etc., etc. We don't know what the environment will look like in terms of COVID-19, fan involvement, how many fans might be in the stadium, etc. Can Tampa Bay repeat as Super Bowl champions next season?
Will they repeat is one question, but you're asking can they? And the answer has to be right. And the answer has to be yes, they can. Yes, repeating is extremely hard, particularly in this sport that, as you see, carries so many variables, especially injury. Like, there's no sport impacted more than at least American sport impacted more by injury than this one. And we've seen was the last time somebody has repeated 2004. But guess who that was? None other than the same Tom Brady. So then, if I have to pick a team that has the ability to repeat, well, guess who? The last guy to do it, Tom Brady. So, and then for the most part, they are returning. Your Mike Evans is under contract. Tom Brady himself. You saw, yes, think they'd score a touchdown in that game, but for the majority of the playoffs, they did not need Antonio Brown. Scotty Miller, who burned Kevin King for that huge touchdown run to end the first half in the NFC title game. He's going to be back. And on top of that, Marsha, you saw then in this game, he had an impact getting that pass interference, which led to another touchdown in the first half. Shaq Barrett and Ndamukong Suh, I think, is coming back. Devin White, Levante David. And then there was a recent story that came out. Mike Evans went to Bruce Arians because there's wide receiver number 2, Chris Godwin, is going to be a free agent. He told Bruce Arians, I am willing to take less money to make sure we bring back most of the gang. So, like, when you look at it, yes, they're in a very tough, in fact, no, they're not even a tough NFC South anymore because Drew Brees is retiring, or at least slated to retire. So the NFC South is going to get that much easier. You're bringing back Tom Brady. Yes, he's 43, going to be 44, as you mentioned, Marsha. But this guy just threw for 40 regular season touchdowns. I think that is lost on a lot of people, not showing any signs of aging. His offensive line has kept him clean for the most part. And we saw he does not have to be good for this team to win because that defense, at least the front seven, is otherworldly, according to Neil's words. Everything points to, this team having the ability to repeat. Will they? That's another question. But you ask, can they? Most definitely they can.
What about Neil? Neil, do you think Kansas City can do the back-to-back?
No, I mean Tampa Bay and Marsha.
Maybe the University.
Just like Justice.
And I already know who will win the next. Maybe.
Yeah, I can't go against what Justin just said. At the end of the day, Tom Brady is still Tom Brady. They still have a lot of good players under contract. They still pretty much will have the same coaching staff. Gronk has already said that wherever Tom goes, he will go. So in the end, like Justin said, can they? Yes, I do think that they can. Will they? Even if I go with will they, I think they have a pretty good chance of doing it because they have some good young pieces and they still have threats. Yes, Tom Brady. To me, what is exactly what you saw last night, where Tom Brady could play well enough to keep the offensive ticking over, but the defense will help them to solidify the team and the game. So I think that Tampa Bay is grounded by the defense, and Tom is driving the bus. So at the end of the day, will they? I think they have a very good chance to do it again too. I can't, as football, you can never say with 100% surety that they will, because it's a very fickle sport in terms of how teams readjust and stuff like that. We still have to see what Deshaun Watson does. We saw some movement of some big quarterbacks over the last few weeks. So, yeah, I wouldn't say they definitely will. They have a high probability to. I think I heard today high 60s or whatever to repeat next season, or like just over 60% to repeat next season. And yeah, they can. They possibly will.
And then, guys, let's look at the other team that played in the Super Bowl on Sunday, the Chiefs, this time for real. A lot has been made of, Patrick Mahomes, and whether you wanted to frame it as a disappointing performance or what have you. My question is now, what impact does this defeat? Because it was indeed a heavy defeat. He's never lost a game by double digits, and you go down 31-9 in the Super Bowl of all games. So what kind of an impact will this defeat have on his resume or his legacy, perhaps, in that juxtaposition between him versus Brady? Where does this defeat leave him?
So you want to go first, Neil?
Oh, yeah, I won't mind going first.
Go ahead.
Thanks. Yeah, Patrick Mahomes, I think he'll be fine. In the end, he is a great young kid. He has great offense. The unfortunate thing is we know history is such that we will not be hearing about the challenges they would have had in terms of their offensive line or whatever. Everybody's going to see his numbers and say, well, he didn't play well, right? But those who would have watched the game and understand the game of football and would dive deep into the numbers, even if you didn't see the game, you would see that there were a lot of issues they had on offense, right? But in terms of Patrick Mahomes, man, I think he's just fine. I think that he does have the capability to play the game at a high level. Even last night, even though he was under a lot of pressure constantly, even some of the throws he made off his back foot while scrambling and everything like that, and some catches that were made, even though they were out of bounds, was still quite impressive. So I am not worried about Patrick Mahomes. He's 25, just as Justin likes to call him, the $500 billion man. I mean, sorry, the $500 million man. So I think Patrick Mahomes will be fine. I think in the end, his resume is going to be fine. He just was up against, a great defense and a Tom Brady that, his story is still being written. So it's just unfortunate that Patrick Mahomes was caught up in the middle of that, and he didn't get to be part of a team that was at 100% to help have an even fight, if you want to put it like that. But in reality, man, I think Patrick Mahomes will just be fine, man. He's all right. I ain't worried about Patrick Mahomes for sure.
and you shouldn't. Part of the problem with sports journalism and these hot takes, quick firing hot takes, is that people are caught being prisoners of the moment.
Yep.
And that's one thing I try my best not to be. And so you have to step back a bit and look in the totality. Huh? In his first 3 years as a starter, this guy has been to 2 Super Bowls and an AFC Championship game, and was a pre-snap penalty, which was not his fault, away from being in 3 straight Super Bowls. Let's think and stop and study that for a second. This guy legitimately should be in 3 successive Super Bowls in his first 3 years. In his first 3 years as a starter, this guy has won a regular season MVP, a Super Bowl MVP, and a Super Bowl trophy. Like, there has been no one, even the great Dan Marino, does not have this lightning hot start that he has. And it pains, like, I hear everyone saying, oh, if he loses this to Tom Brady, he's definitely never catching him. Who would have thought early in Tom Brady's career that this is where Tom Brady would be? So we have a friend.
Only Tom Brady and his grandmother.
Only people. Like, we have a friend, your guy, Adriel Woody Richards, that loves to say, let the cricket play. So let the football play. Let the football play, because if this is what he has done in his first 3 years, then, oh my gosh. And Patrick Mahomes is one to say he is only now learning and understanding the game. And if this guy is only now understanding, imagine when he really does. As Marsh and Neil correctly said, he's only 25. and has already been to successive Super Bowls. I think a lot of people forget the history of football because there is a point in time the same was said, or not the same, that John Elway would look like a choker, like he can't win the big one because he was to 3 Super Bowls and couldn't win one. And then last 2 years in the league, he wins 2 Super Bowls, and now everyone is like, oh my gosh, surefire top 10 quarterback of all time, probably a top 5. And he won 2 Super Bowls in the back end of his career. This guy has already been to 3 straight AFC title games, 2 Super Bowls, won a Super Bowl, and a Super Bowl MVP in his first 3 years at the age of 25. Whenever said and done, right, Patrick Mahomes is going to obliterate every single regular season passing record that Tom Brady currently holds. The only thing that is going to stop him from surpassing Tom Brady is if he can match those Super Bowl victories. As Neil correctly said, this guy is just fine. You can't pin this loss on him. You're missing your starting left tackle, starting right tackle, and your center was out with COVID. Now this to me is a blip on the radar.
Yep.
Now, guys, having said all of that, and Neil, I'm going to come to you first for this one. Looking ahead to next season, then, what does Kansas City have to do? Do you think they need to pick things apart, do some more analysis, bring in some more pieces, retool, reshape? What needs to happen?
They need to be healthy. They need not to be a pandemic. Like, it's so unfortunate. It's so unfortunate, right? We wanted to see that high-powered offense. We wanted to see Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce. We wanted to see Edwards, Justin's boy.
I want to say, Neil, Clyde Edwards-Helaire had a good game. It's just against Andy Reid.
He did.
And the enemy only called his number 9 times, and that was a recipe for defeat.
They lost his number and at a point. But yeah, by the end of the day, man, I think Kansas City just needs to be healthy, right? I mean, the only thing I could think they can do is kind of try to safeguard themselves from this type of situation happening again, which is, you can't really do that. You can't, like, this is COVID, right? Protocols and everything like that. It is just unfortunate that we did not see a full strength Kansas City team against a full strength Tampa Bay team. Both have incredible weapons. Both have decent defenses. I don't even know what they can do. What they can do is they have young players. They have the right tools. They have the right strategy and everything. That, I would say, if there was something to do, I would say that Andy Reid, I'm not getting into why he was play calling the way he was play calling, but Andy Reid could, as Justin just said, rely more on Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Their run game is phenomenal. I don't know why they didn't go to it, especially when they had problems with protecting Patrick Mahomes in the pocket. So to me, if anything, I would look more at the strategy, more at the play calling, which is usually fine. Play calling for Kansas City during the regular season was amazing. For the most part, I mean, it's funny because Justin was saying during the Super Bowl that, before the Super Bowl, that Andy Reid was the greatest play caller of all time. And then he forgot the number of his running backs. I don't understand. But yeah, man, I don't know what they could possibly do in terms of bolstering their team for next season. I think they would have to mentally refocus and just make sure that their play calling can utilize their teams and not kind of just freak out because the defense can't hold Patrick Mahomes or we need points on the board. Like, just keep your cool, 1, and 2, the mental toughness of the team, right? We saw a few players lose their cool. Was the guy Matthew? He went into Tom Brady's face and he got a lot of foolish penalties. Like, you need players, and I hope that this experience helps them to, just keep cool. Just do not let what's happening take you out of what your job is. Stay humble, stay focused, and do what you need to do. So I think mentally is what they need to do to recalibrate and refocus. I don't think anything in terms of their roster they need to change. I think they're fine. On to next season.
Ditto. The reality is, just don't be a prisoner of the moment. Because when you take a step back and look at the grand scheme of this, the team lost 2 games the entire season. 2.
The
All
entire season.
all of 2 games you've lost, and you lost the last game, as Neil said, due to poor health. That being said, well, let's deal with the overarching question firstly. You have most of your major players wrapped up for the foreseeable future. Neil touched on the $500 million contract that Patrick Mahomes has, but Tyreek Hill is also extended well into the future, as is Travis Kelce, who had a great game. Clyde Edwards-Helaire is on a rookie contract, and this is his first season. I'm not sure if Sammy Watkins is coming back. Mecole Hardman, I think, has 1 more year with the squad or 2 more years with the team. And Frank Clark just last offseason, signed a big contract. So your major players are all coming back. And, Andy Reid is there for a reason. Like, he don't get all that success being a prisoner of the moment. So he'll be fine. He knows that, well, it was just a situation where we, kind of got unhealthy at the worst time possible, losing Eric Fisher and your right tackle in a game that you really couldn't afford to lose them. That being said, Neil brought up a great point, and their play calling has more, for the most part, ignored the run because of the weapons we have. But you have to remember, if you're missing your tackles for a team that loves to pass rush, the best way to slow down a pass rush is to run right at it. And it was not for a fact that Clyde Edwards-Helaire was bad in this game. Clyde Edwards-Helaire ran for like 7.1 yards per carry. I think he had 9 for like 60 something yards in this game. And you just didn't stick with that. Like, not only, and you have 2 backup tackles. You're playing backups on your offense. The best way to help them out is to run block. There is nothing better than, and I mean, I'm quite sure if all of us right now get in a scrum, the one thing you don't want to do is drop back to defend. You want to rush forward and push down a man. And
Yep.
that is what run blocking is for. Like, pass blocking, you drop back. And obviously that's basically you defending yourself. Run blocking, you decide, you get to dictate the term. If you're playing backups in 2 very vital roles or vital positions on your offensive line, then you help them out. You run the football. And then the strength of your team is passing, there's no doubt. And I mentioned all the weapons from Travis Kelce, Tyreek Hill, Mecole Hardman, Sammy Watkins didn't play in the game. But if then you really want to stick to your pass, because they only called 11 runs in that game, then you have to even your running backs to block, and you didn't do that. It was almost a case of, and I don't like to say this because I love Andy Reid, but it was almost a case of overconfidence, saying, "Well, we do what we do, and we're gonna do it here." But it was foolhardy because this is not any normal front seven that you are playing. So you had to help out your back, like A, running, and then B, bringing in the extra tight end, bringing in the extra running back to help with these pass rushers. But what Neil said, you just don't overreact. You lost 2 games all year, and one you can drum up to health.
Now, guys, before we move into our final section where we touch on, some of the off-field moments of the Super Bowl, I just had a question where, following the game on social media, particularly Twitter, a lot was made of some of the calls that the refs made. And, there was that chatter about, Mahomes, after the first half, Mahomes needs to come back out and beat the Buccaneers and the refs. To your mind, did the referees have a major impact?
I don't feel so. Because the referees were not in Tampa Bay's front seven. Referees were not named Devin White, Levante David, Shaquille Barrett, and Dominican. So the referees had nothing to do with you only scoring 9 points. Because all of these penalties, let us talk about the penalties that you had. These are self-inflicted. You had an offside penalty on a field goal attempt. Like, what does that have to do with a referee? Like, what are you doing lined up offside in a field goal in the red zone, then allow them, you gave them a first down for that, which then turned into a touchdown. You complain of the pass interference calls in the end zone, the middle of the end zone, when the ball was clearly not, able that I think it was Mike Evans, clearly couldn't catch that ball. One of the basic rules, and I've never played football in any stretch of the imagination, Marshall, no form, whether it be tackle or flag, whatever. I may have passed on a pigskin. Yeah, I love Madden. Yeah, video game. But I know Justin Marvel, has never played the entire life. I know that if you are face guarding a man, and there is contact you're holding, and you never turn to locate the football, that is going to be called 10 times out of 10. That will, no matter if you threw the ball into New Mexico, that call is going to be called every time once you do not turn and locate the football. Like, no, like there were some touchy calls, yes, but half of those penalties, as Neil drummed it up or talked about it perfectly, was just complete lack of discipline. And it was Super Bowl champion because a lot of people are saying this is an inexperienced team. No, you just came back from Super Bowl. You're defending it. It was a total lack of discipline, especially when you're lined up in an offside position on a field goal attempt. So no, Marshall, the referees had absolutely no impact on this game.
Neil, you agree?
Yeah, I mean, there were some calls I thought were terrible, but they were few and far between. I think Justin hit on it. The one with Mike Evans, he couldn't catch the ball, but they called interference because, as Justin rightly said, the defender didn't blow the ball. He just tried to make a play. But he kind of watched the player and tried to make a play without locating the ball and making a play on the ball. And then there was a holding on a defensive back that was kind of questionable. But by and large, man, I mean, early on, one could have made the argument that it looks like, something fishy going on with the referees because there were a lot of flags and penalties. But as the game continued in that first half, you just saw the mental mistakes and lack of discipline of Kansas City. They just made a lot of mistakes, and the unsportsmanlike conduct, the offside on a field goal kick, like you. It can't be the referee. You're giving the referees an easy time to in throwing flags. So referees had no impact, man. I think the only people that were to blame here would be Kansas. Well, Murphy's Law, which is the missing tackles and center, as well as lack of discipline and poor play calling, just kind of buckling under the pressure of the big stage, which is again very uncharacteristic of this Kansas City Chiefs team.
So, all right, guys, we had the big matchup on Sunday. A lot of eyes were on Tampa Bay. A lot of people were in Tampa Bay. So, taking a look at the stadium, a capacity of about 55,000 plus the venue could hold. So, the NFL, they had between 22,000 and 25,000 approximately in stadium, including 7,500 healthcare workers as a thank you. They were invited to come to the game. And the rest of the seats were filled with cardboard cutouts, which incidentally, you could pay $100, send in your picture to have your face on a cardboard.
I think that's pretty cheap, relatively cheap. $100 to be seen on a TV event that the entire world is watching.
I could see.
No, Justin. No. Hold on. That is $100 for a chance to be seen on television.
Fair enough.
don't let me get on it.
Fair enough.
So we had about anywhere between 22 and 25,000 people in the venue. In this age of COVID-19, etc., what were your thoughts on the number of people who were in the stadium in Tampa, Florida?
That there's clearly no coronavirus in Tampa, Florida. That's obviously clearly Tampa Bay.
No. They don't care about the coronavirus in Tampa.
No, Neil. Clearly, Tampa Bay has done a tremendous job in eradicating the global pandemic, and I want to tip my hat to the medical professionals out there in the south of the United States for clearly doing an awesome job in mitigating and erasing. It was absolute madness doing with 22,000 people in one stadium, and not counting all of the weekend's dancers, because it was not just the weekend. It felt like
goodness.
Everyone will say, well, sure, but what are you doing with all of these dancers in one centralized and cramped up space? It is like, I'm not here to pull down or criticize anybody, but for the time I saw that and the AFC title game at Arrowhead Stadium, I said, well, my word, this is clearly a job well done in both Kansas City, Missouri, and Tampa Bay, Florida, that there's clearly no coronavirus in these parts, because that's the only explanation you can have for putting together over 20,000 people in one very small environment.
Neil, what about you?
Yeah. Yeah, there's no corona in Tampa Bay. Like Justice said, they did a very good job of eradicating COVID. I mean, I wish they would share their secret with the rest of the world, because we're suffering
Please.
right now here. Right now here, we're in lockdown, and we could really use whatever it is Tampa Bay has. Maybe it's a positive outlook on life, like you know. But in all seriousness, man, I saw it, and first I have to say, when I saw the cutouts, I asked myself, you know, I wonder if people paid money to have their picture there or won a contest or something, right? But Marsha just filled us in on that. But in all seriousness, somebody has corona, or well, some people have corona because of what transpired in Tampa Bay last night. Whether you were in the stadium, whether you were part of the performance, or whether you celebrated, because we saw some of the video of the celebrations after that. Now, if you thought the stadiums were bad, if you thought the halftime show by the weekend was bad, pardon me, Marsha, I didn't hear you.
No, I was saying, even in the build up to the game, you know, the nights before, you know, people were in the streets, they were gaming, they were partying, and so forth.
Yeah, man. I mean, I would say though that there were a lot of people wearing masks. Every time the camera, and probably that is due to the production team of the presentation, making sure to only focus on people that had their masks up. But from what I saw in the stadium, I was like, all right, somebody from there, people, they can have another spike. Justin and I were joking during while we were watching. I was like, yeah, they can have a spike. You know, we can just look out for the next couple of weeks. In 2 weeks, we can see a lot of cases go up in Florida and, you know, across the country. But then when I saw the celebration in the streets, wow, the city of Tampa is living nice and happy.
Balling.
Just
Balling.
Just vibes.
Just vibes. Yeah, it's just ridiculous.
You saw, Neil, the pre-game shows that ESPN had leading up to week. They'll be on the beach. And you were just saying loaded beaches and people walking up and down nearly a single mask. I'm like, Tampa Bay, boy.
But Justin, we live on an island. Would you go in and see in a mask? That doesn't make sense.
Yeah, but if I'm walking up on a beach, I think I'd want to wear one. Or I just may not want to be at the beach during the middle of a global pandemic.
So you're gonna come out the ocean, go to your bike, get your mask, and go for what? Come on, Justin, man.
How about just not go to the ocean?
Now, guys, there are two other, you know, elements of the Super Bowl that people look forward to, not related to the actual game on the field. We have the commercials.
You can sing some Weekend here, Marsha.
Nope. And as Justin is alluding to the halftime show, Justin, there's still people on and we want them to stay. So, you know, the commercials and the halftime show. So I'm going to start, first of all, with the halftime show. Anything stood out for you? I know you mentioned the dancers and them not having masks, etc. Granted, we don't know the protocols that might have been in place for the dancers, etc. So that's a whole other discussion there. But what was the highlight for you about the halftime show, if anything?
So yeah, I'm gonna embarrass Neil on this show now. I was in.
I know it.
I was in a watch party with Neil, and Neil not knowing who The Weeknd was the highlight of my night.
I know his songs. I just didn't know it was The Weeknd that sang them. Okay.
But you know the name Weeknd as an artist? Yes?
I know the name Weeknd and the that were played last night. I'm just putting the two together now in a nice sandwich. But everybody was thinking it was funny because I'm not up with the times. I don't know who The Weeknd is. Of course, I know who The Weeknd is. I just didn't know he was so good at producing music.
So, Marsh, you think that Weeknd actually spent $7 million of his own money on that production, or do you think that's
wouldn't be far-fetched? It wouldn't be far-fetched, to be honest. Because I think
I thought
even in the even in the build-up to the Super Bowl, once it was announced that he was going to be the person performing, his streams went up exponentially. So you make back that money like nothing. So it wouldn't be far-fetched for me to believe that.
Well, two things. One, I thought the show was good because I watched it of the Super Bowl because that's not what I'm there for. I'm here for the football and secondary the ads. So yeah, I enjoyed the show because I
It was new to
I
you.
was learning, seeing it was new to me. And then on top of that, I was I kind of like the production of it going under the stage, and from a technical standpoint, I loved how the show was put together in terms of the visuals. I was watching them on the field. Some, I don't know, thousands of people on the field dancing. I was like, whoa. First, I was thinking, well, what do you do in terms of choreography for something on this scale? But then I thought about, how about Corona? But then clearly there's, as we just talked about, none in Tampa.
Can't be.
I thought it'd be having. I don't care for it, but because I watched it and I enjoyed it, I actually enjoyed it. Thought it was good.
I expected Neil to be PC here, so let me bring the real analysis of that halftime show, Marsha.
Oh, here we go.
It is one of the weaker halftime shows I've seen since Justin Timberlake. I think of recent vintage, Justin Timberlake was the weakest of the lot. But yeah, I've seen, and because when I look, for me, of the last, I want to say 15 years, Lady Gaga was the best by a mile. Like her coming out of the roof, and just Lady Gaga as a live performing act is very, very tough to top. So she has been the gold standard ever since I saw that. I was like, all right, I measure every Super Bowl halftime performance by her. Yes, I know who Lady Gaga is, and I like Lady Gaga. I really do.
Well,
And then
you like Katy Perry too. Tell them about Katy Perry too.
That's the next person I'm going to get to. Katy Perry was a good number 2 after recent memories. Katy Perry with the 2. Yeah, yes, I know you want to say Beyonce. I think you're probably talking about the first Bruno Mars performance, because the one that sticks out was the last Bruno Mars, and the last Bruno Mars performance was pretty weak as well.
It wasn't a soul number. He came on with someone. You're right.
Right, and that's the last one I remember. But yeah, correct. The first Bruno Mars was pretty good. But Katy Perry and those 2 walking lanes, oh my word, Mars, she be talking
Katy Perry had, like, you see, I don't even know.
Not actual real lanes. Like, these lanes were probably like 20 to 25 feet tall, like mechanical lanes walking across. And you remember, I'm sure you've heard the meme, left shark meme.
Oh, yeah.
That is from Katy Perry's performance. So a top performance. And then we can't forget Beyonce, basically, literally blowing out the lights at that Super Bowl in, I want to say, 2016 or 2013, one of the two. Oh, that is number 3 for me. Her performance was not the one where she brought back Destiny's Child. No. I'm talking about the one before that, where she literally shut down the show, and I saw Beyonce dancing. I saw Beyonce singing and dancing. I saw Beyonce shaking everything, and it was still firm. But that
I have no recollection of any of this. I have never seen it.
Yes, Neil, because and it's hurtful. You as a producer should be watching these things, Neil. But yes, that performance. So those
I come for the football. I come to work.
But from a sports marketing perspective, now it is an entire package.
It's an entire show.
It is an
experience. Don't side with him, Marsha. Don't side with him, Marsha.
But Marsha watches for these things.
It's an experience. It is more than a game.
The most tweeted moments in any Super Bowl now come from the halftime show more so than the game.
Particularly I think they work it out like the last 2 minutes of the halftime show. You tend to get the record tweets during the Super Bowl.
That's what I'm saying. So we have now come to understand. They've even surpassed the ads, because a lot of people used to watch for the ads, but it's really the halftime performance now. And let's not forget Janet Jackson's wardrobe malfunction.
Let us not go.
No, let's leave it at that.
Let's not talk about that.
That's sabotage.
Right. So so the weekend, when I think of all of these massive moments, and then we're not even getting into Michael Jackson or Whitney Houston, right? And Prince.
Yeah, those were great.
We're not even getting to those. So, like, of recent vintage, I put the weekend only in front of Justin Timberlake.
Well, for me, I appreciated the production value of the show, particularly they had a serious task, because remember, this would have been the first halftime show that couldn't take place on the field. So they had
Right.
to rely on a lot of digital enhancements for their set, etc. And they did a really, really good job from that perspective. So I enjoyed the set design. The set design was fantastic. There was just one part of the performance when the one that's now well memed when he's coming through the lights where there's a lot of movement, like he's searching for something. I actually felt nauseous at that point. It was
Really?
too much.
Me
It
too,
was too
yeah.
much movement for
But
me.
I like that concept, but it
But
did make me feel.
yeah.
You do.
So
But
You
you
saw
just
the meme. You saw the meme associated with that,
oh,
like
there's
that,
several
where the
here.
man said that Patrick Mahomes looking for open receiver. That's
oh
that
no,
was hilarious.
oh no. But I
I
must ask though, Marsha.
in value.
Sorry, Marsha. I have to ask. You just said that they couldn't go on the field. There was a so that was
The
pre-recorded. Then
actual stage wasn't on the field, so it was kind of like
oh.
usually they bring out that mobile stage and everything. You're kind of sent. Well, you're
Mm.
more on field than you normally are. So this time it was kind
Okay,
of set back. So you had a lot less space to work with. So they tried to make so you would
that's
get
it.
that same movement and that big feel, but in a much smaller space. And to me, they did a really good job.
My man, weekend, man.
I can't feel my face with that.
All of a sudden,
Well,
now
my
you know
bad.
who
Don't
the
let me get this
weekend is, right?
copyright.
So
Don't let me
as,
don't.
as we move down to the wrapping up our show, quickly, your favorite commercial or the commercial that stood out to you the most?
I am an MCU fan, as you know, Marsha. So for me, the trailer for um, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, well, that was mine because all the other ads were paying for the poor as compared to. Maybe I'm too old.
Interestingly, those ads almost didn't come to fruition because originally MCU wasn't going to run a Super Bowl ad, and then somebody decided, you know what, we really should have missed out on this.
I'm surprised because Disney is like swimming in money. So I didn't think that 5.6 million US dollars meant anything to Disney. I thought that was chump change. So yeah, so my favorite ad was indeed seeing the preview for Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I can't say I really felt the other ads.
My favorite ad was the Doritos ad with Shaggy, where it had Mila Kunis and Aston Kutcher, and
Yeah,
Aston Kutcher like, "Did you eat my Doritos?" And she was like,
it
she
was.
has all this like cheese on her and all her fingers or whatever, and she's like, uh, and he looks at Shaggy, and Shaggy's just saying no in their house randomly like, just say it wasn't you, just say it wasn't me, and it was just funny, I didn't expect that, like the way it went and everything like that. But I must comment on the Super Bowl ads. I don't know if it was, I don't even know if it doesn't have to do with code or anything like that. I think I need to get a job in marketing for these Super Bowl ads because there was an ad with a man sitting in the field playing the piano with
I'm
oat
going to
milk.
get to that. No, hold on. I'm going to get to that because the more I look into that, that was a brilliant ad from my perspective, and I'm going to tell you why.
Well, I don't know the backstory. I guess you can educate me and change my mind. But he's sitting down in the oat field playing a piano with oat milk, and the one with Edward Scissorhands just was like hand free. I said, it means hand free, but it's like out of all the way you can express this, you can pay money and get in two very huge name actors, and Winona Ryder and Timothy. I can't remember his last name, but the French actor that's really good. You can pay money in them and get all this set design and all of this just to highlight that your car is hands free. Like I don't get it, but
These things
educate me,
are not.
Marsha, about this oat milk.
These things are not marketed to us, huh?
That was one of the major criticisms from a lot of the marketing executives coming out of the review of the Super Bowl ads, where companies now are relying too much on star power and they're losing the effectiveness of the ad. Sometimes you can get a better ad with no name people than just packing your ad with known faces and A-listers and that kind of stuff. Now, as it relates to the oat milk, that is actually the CEO of the company. He wrote
I
the song
figure
himself
so.
to
I
be
figure
absolute,
so.
because as soon as the commercial went live, they actually had merchandise on sale on their website. That was the worst Super Bowl commercial ever. So that was
Oh,
deliberately done to
I
be
love it.
awful.
Oh,
I love it.
And when
okay, okay.
it was so bad, everybody is talking about how bad it is, and now you know that there's oat
Oh,
milk.
well,
Some-
very well done because he got me. He
It
got me.
is
Very
a
well
good
done. Very well
Because
done.
talking about, oh gosh, I hated that oat milk ad. You still know there are several companies who had an ad that I don't remember the name of the company, but you definitely know there was an OT or Oatly milk ad during the Super Bowl. So for
I
me,
get
that
it.
it worked. It could have backfired, but for me, it worked.
I
Well,
mean,
hold on.
I
Well
appreciate
done.
that, but
Well
well
done.
done. I appreciate that, but Justin told us last night in the watch party that the average cost of a Super Bowl ad is $5.6 million. That production of that probably didn't cost $100,000. I'm just saying.
Yeah,
So
but
then for them,
how much did it make back?
who knows? Maybe they got more bang for their buck. Exactly. Because imagine now there are people who had much higher budget ads that were trash and not memorable and
There you
spent the
go.
same
To drink,
amount of money
to drink,
more.
to drink oatmeal.
So there
I
we
mean,
go.
these guys, let's remember these guys is not by accident, just like the Nike campaign with Kaepernick. These people do their research beforehand. I like to say these people are paid big bucks to know what they're doing. I mean, the State Farm commercial is exactly what you're talking about, Marshall. You put Drake in there, and I don't think that was really needed because you already have Patrick Mahomes and Aaron Rodgers with that buff guy.
The Drake one worked because people still have a love-hate relationship with Drake, so people
Agree.
still will talk about
He's
it.
polarizing. Yeah, yeah.
And
But
in
here's
terms
a question though. Oh, so
then because he also tweeted the ad and whatnot of the stars, because even though you might have A-lister stars, etc., they don't have the following that Drake has.
Agreed.
So but
true.
then when he tweets this ad, a State Farm, everybody already likes State Farm, and people were talking about Drake from State Farm, with the play on words, etc.
Playing with
So
Drake and
that one worked.
But here's a question for you, Justin. There was one ad really quickly with your beloved Vince Lombardi. They did the whole hologram of him. I think it was an
that was
ad for
gut
the I think
wrenching.
for the
That was
frontline Warners for yeah. That was. What do you think about that? I mean, I have my personal opinions, but you as a Packer fan, Vince Lombardi,
I
lover.
would have preferred had you used Vince Lombardi's voice or you use old footage of Vince Lombardi. But to try to re-digitize him like he is still alive, that was because I don't understand these people
Yeah.
don't now they don't I don't think they did research. Because remember, and you are a huge Star Wars fan, Neil, when they Carrie Fisher died and in I think it's Rogue One, they digitized her to be,
No,
to
she didn't. No, she didn't die. She didn't. No, I mean Peter Cushing because
not Peter Cushing, no Carrie Fisher. 'Cause when
but
they had
she wasn't dead yet. She wasn't dead yet.
right, but they
She was
brought sorry, they had used a younger so they tried to re-digitize her face to make her look younger, and the fans absolutely detested it. And so I'm like, I thought you would have learned from that moment because as a Packer fan, I don't know how other how non-Green Bay fans saw it, but had they used like, and that is from an old clip, like that is as because it is Vince Lombardi's voice.
Yeah,
Had they
yeah, yeah.
used old footage of Vince Lombardi just saying that, then I would have loved it. Like, that would have touched my
Slow
heartstrings.
motion. Yeah.
But trying to re-digitize him to make him seem like he is still alive, that is like, it did not sit well with me, to be quite frank.
I think some eager tech graphic designer animator jumped at that project. For me, it wasn't so much the reanimation, it was the ad itself, in a sense. The ad will only resonate with people who know who Vince
Who Vince
Lombardi is.
Lombardi is.
Yeah,
Because the average
it's
person knows
true.
his name, but they don't know what he looks like. There was no kind of graphic, nothing to indicate who it was that was speaking. So it was lost on a lot of people that, oh, that was actually, it was only, I think, the first, because they opened the broadcast with it just before the anthems,
Right.
etc. It was only the second time it aired when they came back from commercial and the commentator mentioned it. I was like, oh, okay.
And you see, so had
Because
you
the actor
used
does not know what he looks like
right,
Yeah.
and had you used old footage now, that
to
speech cut
contextualize it. Yeah.
exactly that speech comes with him around his actual Packer players. So when you see it, then you're gonna say, "Oh, well, that's Vince Lombardi." I mean, obviously, I know who he is because, well, that is my famed coach. But like, yeah, as I said, you're correct. Like, if you would just use there's nothing wrong with just contextualizing and using his old footage, and that would have brought home the point, and I think that would have resonated more with people. But to redigitize him, and as you said, with no context to it, no like saying this is Vince Lombardi and just putting him in blackness for lack of a better word. No. Mm-mm.
So, guys, quickly, because I know we're probably well over the time. Unfortunately, I've lost my clock here that I usually use to keep track of things. Your favorite meme, if any, coming out of Super Bowl Sunday?
Go on, Neil.
Favorite meme? I saw one with Patrick Mahomes on Tom Brady. The one that you just mentioned was kind of funny. I like that one that Justin just told. I wish I had seen it, but yeah, I haven't seen many. But the one with Tom Brady carrying Patrick Mahomes on his shoulder, like, bring your kids to work day. I like that one.
I love this new generation and how fast they put out things. As I said, the weekend and that performance and tying that with Patrick Mahomes looking for open receivers. So I was to tears when I saw that meme. I'm not sure. What about yours, Marsha?
Well, there was one meme I liked. It wasn't really a meme in its truest sense, just a juxtaposition where it was the only time Tom looked up was to see the streaker. And I thought that was very, very funny because usually when the other side is on the field, his head is down. So then when the streaker ran across, that's the one time he looked up and they caught him. So people juxtaposed the two. And then the other thing that I appreciated, it wasn't a meme again, but it was the tweets from the Patriots account. They actually congratulated Tom on being,
the greatest of all time,
etc. But more importantly, or I should say funnier, the second tweet reminded Gronk not to drop the trophy. So I
I saw an interview with that. Yeah, that was funny. On ESPN.
Well.
But then,
so those were
but really quickly though, in terms of what was I gonna say, I can't remember. Slipped my mind.
Get it?
Well, long night, long weekend. I can't remember. In terms of Bill Belichick, I don't know how he would feel this morning.
There were tons of memes about Belichick and the Patriots fans. Tons of them.
I need to live on Twitter like you, Marsha. Like, Marsha's life is Twitter.
This is the best place to be.
Right. I don't remember what I was gonna say. What do y'all think about, really quickly? The Marsha, this is for you. You always ask the questions. You can ask you this question. What do you think about that journalist that was talking to Leftwich and and said, what did you think?
Explain the scenario for those of our viewers who might not have seen the clip.
So basically, a journalist that they were interviewing Leftwich, who was the offensive coordinator for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and they asked him about the defense. What did they think about, what did they have to do to keep pressure on Patrick Mahomes?
What was the goal to keep Patrick Mahomes shut down? That was the question.
Right. So essentially that was for the defensive coordinator, just Todd Bowles. So the white, and you can hear from his voice, he's a white journalist. He clearly mixed up his black people.
Because we all look the same, apparently.
Yep.
What I would say as I don't know, I could say former sports journalist. Can I say former?
No.
No.
As a former journalist, my immediate reaction was, how did this man get credentials? Because how can you be covering the Super Bowl with access? Because the thing about it, you can cover the Super Bowl and still not have access to all the different levels. So you're covering the Super Bowl and you have access to the post-game press conference, and you do not know the difference between those two. Like, even if you did not know before the game, you could have Googled that real quick. real quick. And then
Google
struck me, even when, no, I'm being real, worst case. And what struck me, even when it was pointed out, you have the wrong person, the reporter laughed, thinking that, they were playing a joke on him. He didn't realize that he indeed had wrong person.
I didn't see that part. I didn't see that clip. Wow.
And you have no excuse not to know who Byron Leftwich is, because, as you correctly said, the man is not a nobody. The man is the offensive coordinator, and not just that, a former starting quarterback for the Jacksonville Jaguars that plays in the same state. That played a playoff game against the same Tom Brady, and you don't know who Byron Leftwich is, and you mistake him for Todd Bowles, who is a former head coach.
They look nothing alike.
Do you not know?
Nothing alike. They're not even close in age. Like
they have different voices,
I think Marsha,
different mannerisms.
I think the better question here, Marsha, would be, how does this man have credentials today?
It would be interesting to find out which media outlet he was attached to. That would be interesting. But it just goes to show sometimes and I'll leave that hanging.
The Swamp Water Gazette is all I could
It
think that he could be reporting for.
just goes to show some
You mistook
journalists are not created equal.
You mistook a former starting quarterback for a former head coach. Let that sit with you for a second, because these two men in their former lives also were even bigger than what they are now, and you did not pick up who they were. Wow.
Well, guys, it's been an extended show today. Let's call it the Super Bowl or post-Super Bowl special edition. Thank you so much for joining us. Be sure to like this video, share this video, keep the conversation going in the comments. Let us know what you think. What was your favorite meme? What was your favorite moment of the halftime show? Did you like the halftime show? What was your biggest takeaway coming out of Sunday's Super Bowl? Be sure to follow us on all of our social media platforms. We're on Twitter, we're on Instagram, we're on Facebook. We're all over, so there's no excuse for you to miss us or any of the news, any of the clips, any of the excitement that happens here on this Just In. We have the mailbag show coming up for you on Thursday at 9 p.m. Barbados time, 8 p.m. Eastern. So you don't want to miss that. Follow us on Instagram if you're not following us there yet. And that's it for us here. I'm Marsha Boyce.
And I am Justin Marvel, looking for some more memes.
I am the Neil Hoyt. Saying
good night.
Good night, everybody.
I don't have a mark on my face, and I upset Sonny Liston, and I just turned 22 years old. I must be the greatest. I told the world, I talk to God every day. The God's with the king about it. You're just the same. I shook up the world. I shook up the world. I shook up the world. I shook up the world.
I said, can I be a legend? Search your soul and answer me this question. Do you think I have what it takes to be great, but still be humble and learn from my mistakes? Shit.